Everyone, and welcome to the 50th episode of Battles and Voices. I'm Lathika, and I'm the founder and host.
And I'm Camden, and I'm the co host. And we serve on the executive team of Vitals and Voices.
Battles and Voices brings together generations of people involved in healthcare in order to foster a supportive and connected community.
Please welcome our guest, Ria Mohan.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to have you on Battles and Voices, especially as this marks our 50th episode, which feels incredibly special to us. And it's even more meaningful because this year also celebrates 50 years of HOSA, Future Health Professionals, making it such a full circle moment to have HOSA's International President with us today. To start us off, feel free to introduce yourself and share a little bit about what you do.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be joining the both of you today, especially because we're celebrating 50 episodes. I didn't even realize that aligned perfectly with our anniversary. That's amazing. But yeah, like you said, my name is Ria. I am a third year undergraduate student at Virginia Commonwealth University. I'm on the pre-med track here in the BSMD program, and I am majoring in forensic biology. Outside of school, I am heavily involved with HOSA Future Health Professionals. We are a global student-led organization dedicated to serving students who are interested in pursuing healthcare careers. And so this role has really allowed me to support and advocate for students across the world. And I am just so excited to share a little bit more about what that means and what my journey has looked like.
That is so incredible. And just to start off, what inspired you to pursue healthcare? And how did your family's experiences with the medical system shape that decision of yours?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned, my decision to join healthcare and to pursue a career was heavily shaped by my family's experiences. So, growing up, my mom and dad were both out of the hospital for various reasons. But one family member in particular, her experience really stood out, and that was my aunt. She was on the kidney transplant waiting list for 8 to 9 years. And so, kind of seeing the emotional toll and the uncertainty that came with that really shaped my decision to serve patients and families who may be in a similar position to kind of have the comfort and the care that we received. And when my aunt finally got her kidney transplant, that was just such a motivating and transformational experience, and one that I hope to provide to so many others who are in similar situations.
I love that passion of yours. So, you share that your aunt's experience on the kidney transplant waiting list had a big impact on you. What did that journey teach you about the patient experience?
I think the number one thing that I learned first and foremost was that the patient experience is really shaped by everyone around that patient. And so, once again, when my aunt received her transplant, it wasn't just this big thing for her, it was this huge weight that was lifted off the shoulders of myself, my parents, her parents, just everyone involved. And so, I think it's important to recognize that the patient experience comprises of the patient, their family, their friends, and that ripple effect really is so extraordinary in the sense that it involves so many different people. And these medical providers have done an amazing job of ensuring that the patient and their families and their friends are all taken care of. So it's really taught me that as a healthcare provider, it's important to kind of take into consideration all perspectives and everyone who's in the room, so that the patient feels like they're taken care of and their community is heard, and everyone's viewpoints are shared and valued.
That is so beautiful to hear. And I'm glad that you were able to take that teaching moment with you into your future. And we heard that you have a HOSA scrapbook. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why it holds a special place in your heart?
Yes, to talk about it, but I don't know if you can. Okay, perfect. You can maybe see a little bit through the background, but essentially the cover of this is from high school. So my HOSA journey started all the way back in Washington State. I'm in Virginia right now for some context, but back home I served as a chapter officer, and so my senior year of that high school journey, we ended with giving every chapter officer superlatives. And so the first superlative that I got was most affectionate. And so I put that on the cover of my scrapbook. And then the one on the back says most likely to take over the world. Um, and so I take the scrapbook with me on every HOSA conference, and um, whenever I have the opportunity to deliver a speech or a workshop, I tell all of the members there that if I could give a superlative to all of them, it would be most likely to take over the world, because I truly feel like every HOSA member I've met has the capacity to change the world with the kindness and the brilliance that they bring to the table, which is showcased through the scrapbook because all of the pages in here are filled with notes and stickers and letters from members from China to Puerto Rico to Washington to Virginia. So it's just like truly a testament to all of the kindness and the compassion that every member brings to our organization. And so, like, reading through these and seeing the pictures and the letters really brings me so much joy and love. I couldn't even put into words how much these pages mean to me.
Love that. That is honestly so amazing. And it's so wonderful that you have a little scrapbook that, kind of tells your story in HOSA and your journey throughout. So really love that. Of course. So through your work with HOSA, you've been able to turn motivation into action. What does that meaningful engagement with students look like for you?
I'd say that meaningful engagement really starts with listening. I think it looks like creating spaces where students from all over the world feel like they are heard and valued and can bring their authentic selves. Each of us has such a beautiful and different journey. And so, like, hearing those stories is what meaningful engagement, I think, means to me. So, when students are able to share their stories and their ideas in a space where they can feel comfortable being open, just hearing their voices is really what turns my motivation into action, like you said.
That's so amazing to hear. And you also, again, as National President of HOSA, you work very closely with students from all around the world. And what motivates you to keep on going, especially through challenges and moments of leadership?
Yeah, this is such a good question. I think that leadership has always been about standing beside the people that you're serving and not necessarily above them, right? And so when I'm standing beside these HOSA members and standing beside the community that I'm serving, it positions me very well to hear those stories that I was referring to. And so when I'm, going through those challenging moments, like you said, and I'm thinking back on my HOSA journey, yes, it's amazing to stand on a big stage under glimmering lights and share a speech and whatnot, but I think the moments that really keep me grounded are the ones where, like, a HOSA member will stop me in the hallway and they're asking me how I'm doing or what's going on. And then I like flip the script and I'm like, hey, like, what are you up to? Like, tell me about your goals. What are your dreams? And then seeing their faces light up and their eyes go big and they're just excited and animated and ecstatic and excited to share what's going on in their lives. That enthusiasm is so contagious and infectious. And that's really what keeps me motivated to keep going during those challenging times. So it's like I said, like, even in the scrapbook, right? Like, the letters that I'm reading, the words that I'm reading remind me of like conversations that I've had in a hallway or in a hotel lobby, or just like the laughter or the hugs that I've shared with HOSA members who bring such a bright light to this organization. And just like thinking back on all of those experiences is what keeps me fueled to keep going.
I love that. And yeah, definitely agree. The HOSA community and family just feels like a big group of students, and you feel like a family every time you're closer together. Me and Camden actually met at a HOSA conference way before FBLA. And so I'm so grateful that we've gotten to know each other over these, like, I think a few couple of months. So it's just wonderful what HOSA can do for members.
Especially, I would have, if I wasn't in HOSA, I would have met so many people. And even I'm in my senior year with HOSA now and of like high school. I'm definitely doing it in college.
Yeah.
This community is incredible. Like just my first year, I met somebody at SLC, like how I met like at my second year at SLC.
Yeah.
You meet so many people along the way and like your HOSA journey. And I even still talk to the person I met my first year, and she's just incredible. We're like both seniors now when we just met when we were sophomores, and it's incredible just to like have that community that I just love it. I don't know how else to describe it besides like the love I have for it.
Mhm.
And host is just a special place in my heart.
Yeah, that's so nice to hear.
Yeah. So you mentioned before that you're deeply passionate about organ donation and access to care. Why is this issue so important to you personally?
So, like I mentioned, when my aunt received her kidney transplant, it was such a blessing to be able to see that she was able to, live to see the next day without being hooked up to a bunch of wires or dialysis machines in the clinic. But another reason why that was so special and meaningful to me is the person who donated a kidney to my aunt was my uncle. And so just kind of seeing that full circle moment and to be able to look up to him and see like the life-changing, life-saving, inspirational act of selflessness that he gave to his sister is just something that I feel so passionately about in order to like share with the world and to give other patients who might be in the same position that hope that it's okay. And like no matter how many years you are on that transplant waiting list, like my aunt was on that list for almost 9 years, people are rooting for you, people are here to support you, and I would love to be a part of that support system through sharing the story and through, whatever career path I take in healthcare to ensure that everyone can feel supported, whether that is the donor or the recipient.
Your aunt and uncle had that full circle moment, and I'm super grateful that your aunt was also able to get that organ transplant. Of course. So, how do you think education and advocacy among especially younger audiences can help normalize conversations around organ donation?
I love this question because I think that young people, especially, are so adept at being educators and advocates because education and advocacy aren't mutually exclusive. And young people are so good about understanding that it's not necessarily like different hats that you have to wear, right? Like you can be an educator, an advocate, and a leader all at the same time. And those aren't necessarily separate roles. And so young people around the world have been amazing, powerful change makers because they are normalizing these conversations about any healthcare topic. But with organ donation specifically, I think it really does help to be in a space where there is peer-led dialogue because then you're hearing those stories from people who are your age, right? Like I've heard stories from young people who have donated or received organs like who are my age, right? And so like hearing them talk about this removes the fear, the misinformation, and the stigma that might come with organ donation. But I think that, those educational efforts really empower students to share stories, listen to stories, and then make informed decisions where they're able to talk openly with their families or with other students or, carry the conversation beyond the classroom so that it is normalized in a way where we can openly support one another.
Definitely agree. So, one accomplishment that you're especially proud of is helping starting a HOSA chapter at Virginia Commonwealth University. What was that experience like for you, and why was it so meaningful to you as well?
When I was moving across the country from Washington State to Virginia for college, I wanted to bring a piece of home with me. And so that was HOSA. And when I first came here, my freshman year, a lot of the people weren't necessarily exposed to HOSA or like, students just weren't in HOSA in high school. So bringing something that meant so much to me and then watching it mean so much to the students who are now involved actively in our chapter has been so beautiful. We had our VCU HOSA meeting just yesterday, actually, for the spring semester planning and like all of the plans that we have and the efforts that these students are taking to really ensure that our members have a phenomenal experience has been so inspirational because I remember like back in freshman year, we were like, okay, now we need to find a faculty advisor, we need to plan this and that. And now the faculty, not only just on the undergrad campus are supporting us, but the faculty on the medical campus have supported our events throughout the past couple of years. They know about us. They're actively emailing us and wanting to get involved. I just got an email from the medical campus the other day asking like, hey, like what plans do you have for the spring semester? Like, let us get involved. And just seeing the outpouring of support and growth from both campuses, from all of the student leaders has been amazing. And the people I serve with now are some of my closest friends in college, which has been really great. So not only is it, amazing for professional growth, but I've found such a beautiful community now on the East Coast when I grew up on the West Coast. And that was all because of HOSA and starting that here on this campus.
Um, That is super incredible that you were able to bring like a piece of home, like as in HOSA, over to the East Coast now when you're originally from the West.
Mhm.
Um, and just being able to foster that community on campus as well is incredible as well. And that's crazy that even the the medical school campus as well is reaching out to. So you've talked about creating a space for students who don't see themselves in a traditional healthcare pathway. So why do you think representation and belonging is so important in healthcare leadership?
Yeah, so really good question. Once again, all these questions have been so good. But especially for representation and belonging, I think in healthcare, especially, right, it's important that we are welcoming anyone and everyone who is willing and excited to provide the care that these people deserve. And regardless of what that looks like, I think it's important for every incoming student or healthcare professional to understand that every journey looks different, and that is so completely okay. I know that my journey has definitely not gone exactly how I pictured it in my head. There have been so many twists and turns, and even in the moment, if it's, something that I wasn't expecting, I am so grateful for every obstacle, for every detour, everything that has occurred that I may have interpreted as a barrier has now been a beautiful learning opportunity. And that's because I've seen people before me who have also experienced similar barriers or obstacles and have turned it into a learning opportunity to overcome. So seeing that belonging, feeling like, people before me have encountered these obstacles and that's okay, fuels confidence, and confident leaders are better equipped to advocate for those diverse patient populations. So regardless of what that representation looks like, it really just teaches us that healthcare is full of leaders who can grow and pivot and be flexible and embrace life's challenges as opportunities to serve and lead and not necessarily follow a traditional pathway.
Agree. Every obstacle is definitely a learning path. Wrap things up, what advice would you give to any students who want to pursue a BS and MD program, but also want to lead in healthcare, but may not see themselves reflected in that field yet?
Your path does not need to look traditional in order to be successful. Regardless of a program acceptance or, a role or a position, you don't necessarily need a title to be in the field, right? Anyone who is passionate about healthcare can make a difference in healthcare. And, whether you're doing that by seeking out mentors or by building communities or just forming relationships with people who are also excited about healthcare, it really just comes from yourself, right? Like you don't need permission to lead, you don't need acceptances or titles or any of that to see yourself in healthcare. Because at the end of the day, your perspective is needed because it brings a unique and different voice. And I obviously am going to encourage anyone to pursue a BSMD program, but once again, I'm trying to drill in the point that you don't need a white coat, you don't need a certain school or a seat in a classroom to enact change. Which brings me to our international theme, by the way. Our 50th international theme is Champions of Change. And so I think this is the perfect moment to remind anyone that no matter your background or your story or your career path or what your journey has looked like, you really do have the ability to enact that change and to be a champion of your own journey and to leave the world much healthier and happier than you found it. So I'm just hoping that everyone who listens to this knows that regardless of what they've seen reflected in healthcare or in the field, you can be that person for someone else and you can, you have the courage to speak up, you have the resilience to adapt and to form your own journey.
That is some wonderful advice. And thank you so much, Ria, for
Abs-
sharing your journey, your advocacy, and the heart behind your leadership.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Of
Of
course.
course.
Your story is such a powerful reminder that leadership in healthcare is rooted in empathy, representation, and truly seeing people.
And to everyone tuning in, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Vitals and Voices. Your continued support truly means the world to us.
If you enjoyed this conversation, then be sure to follow, share, and stay tuned for more episodes of Battles and Voices.
We'll see you next time.